Food is limited and the flock is many. For most animals, seeking to feed yourself first and then resting to conserve energy is the best way to survive. But without the aid of rigorous cost-benefit analysis, some animals see fit to cooperate with one another to find food. That can mean expending precious caloric resources to feed someone else. But why? For many animals, it's worth it to walk the razor's edge between cooperation and resource guarding. When food is hard to get on your own, it may be time to work together in life, death, and taxonomy. Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal info. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
And today we're talking about an animal that's great and white. No, not that great white animal, but more on that later.
Yeah, this is, it's not quite as terrifying. I don't think Steven Spielberg would make a movie about the great white pelican.
Depends on how big you are. To people, yeah, not quite as terrifying.
But to a lot of little fish and birds, very terrifying.
Yeah.
But like I said, we're talking about the great white pelican. Seems nice. Also known as, by sciencemen, the eastern white pelican, the rosy or white pelican, just white. But we're going to call it here Nigel. If you remember Nigel from Finding Nemo, voiced by Jeffrey Rush, was a pelican. And the A Pelican Dream. And I'm proud to be a pelican where the fish go in my beak. There we go.
I think you mean Bill.
It doesn't fit. This is the first song in a while. I used to do songs every time, but that's not a promise it's going to happen every time. But
yeah, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself.
Definitely. I want to be able to spread my pelican wings and fly.
Mm-hmm.
So let's taxonomize this, Captain. The pelican lives in a kingdom that we know, we love, and are in all together as one kingdom Animalia. We're also in a big phylum, and that phylum is Chordata. So we have a lot in common. We have two major categories in common, and this is where we start to have not things in common. Mm-hmm. The class is Aves because it's a bird. And then pelicans are kind of in a category all to themselves because the rest of them are the rest of the taxonomy classifications are very pelican focused. The order is Pelicaniformes. You know, things that look like pelicans. The family is Pelicanidae. The genus is Pelicanus. So I'm seeing a trend here.
Mm-hmm.
And the species is pelican. No, I'm just kidding. The species is Onocrotalis.
Wow, it really took a turn.
Yeah, it diverts. You would think it would be Pelicanus pelican, but, you know, somebody decided to turn on the creative machine at the very last second and call it Pelicanus Onocrotalis. We're back to cool Greek hero sounding names or Roman hero sounding names. But since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for my favorite part of the show. It's time for critter groups, the part of the show where I ask you a question, and that question is the same every time. What is the name of a group of this animal? Or what is the collective noun? And here's a little fun fact. Collective nouns are also called terms of venery. So what's the term of venery for a pelican? The book of Saint Albans in 1486 coined the phrase term of venery. But it's also, that book is also known as the Book of Hawking, Hunting, and Blazing of Arms. So it sounds like a very cool, like, late medieval treatise or something like that.
It does. Hit me with some options.
Yeah. So what's the term of venery for pelicans? Is it A, a gouge of pelicans? Is it B, a squadron of pelicans? Is it C, a batch of pelicans? Or is it D, a swoop of pelicans?
Squadron. Final answer.
Ding, ding, ding. You're correct.
Maybe I just need to not think about it at all.
Was that your plan for that one?
Yeah. Actually, I couldn't help but think about it a little bit. I was thinking, like, swoop doesn't really work, especially for this kind of some pelicans dive, but a lot of them just float on top of the water to hunt. So swoop doesn't work. Then what was the other ones that you said?
Gouge and batch.
Gouge was just a red herring right off the bat. And then batch, just no thanks.
I don't want to be associated with any animal that comes in batches.
It cannot be something that is a group name.
I
batch,
bet you it is.
I guess a squadron technically is a group name.
Yeah, it is a group name. It's it's the Red Squadron leader.
Yeah. Anyway, I won.
Yeah, you did. Your prize is us moving on to the next section. So let's talk about where this thing lives. It lives in Eastern Europe, West Asia, in the stands, like Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan and stuff like that. It lives in India and Bangladesh, and then all the way over in Central and Southern Africa and the Middle East. So it's kind of spread all around that middle area, and that's its range when it comes to nesting, breeding, and just residing. Yeah, it likes shallow, warm, fresh water for the most part. So you're not really going to see these in the ocean or up north very much.
Mm-hmm.
So what does it look like? Well, I'm going to pretend like you haven't seen a pelican before. You, the listener, in case you haven't. They're pretty common, but they're pretty crazy looking birds if you haven't. So Nigel is a larger version of your garden variety pelican, which means that it has, basically a huge duck with shortish legs. It has black primary feathers on its wings. The primary feathers are the outer feathers, the ones on the end facing the tail. They're the big feathers that help it to fly. But the feathers on the bone of the wing near the top, near the head, are white, and the back is white, and the head is white. But this varies from location to location. So some great white pelicans might be completely white, and others might have more black in them. But you don't want to talk about the feathers. The most distinctive feature of any pelican is its face and bill. It has a thin and snake-like neck extending up to a very small head. I was looking at the head compared to other birds, and I was like, that's a pretty small head if you take the bill away. The skin on its face is a mottled pink and doesn't have any feathers, so it's got like that kind of turkey-ish, like just bare, wrinkly skin on its eyes and face. But attached to this head is an enormous bill that sticks straight out like a heron's. And then under the bill, which is kind of shaped like a spear, is a retractable pouch that extends from the pelican's neck to the tip of its bill. And this pouch is usually a yellow-orange color. The pouch can billow out and form kind of this huge bowl or net, and they can use that to scoop up fish that are close to the water's surface. Once a fish is in there, the pelican will contract the pouch, so pulling it back in, leaving its mouth slightly open, and that forces the water out while keeping the fish inside. So it kind of acts as a strainer. But I said this was a big duck, but this is an exceptional bird. It is one of the largest birds on Earth that can fly.
Yep, it's also the second largest pelican.
It's second to the Dalmatian pelican.
Yes. in on average. So there might be great whites that are bigger than the Dalmatian. You mentioned something that warms my heart because it's time. Welcome to the beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show, the part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms in a quiz show that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send in audio of yourself singing, saying, or chittering the words measure up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We have a new submission today from Josh. We both know who this is.
Yes.
But you procured this, so would you like to introduce this person?
My other brother-in-law. We had a great family reunion.
Yeah, up in the mountains.
He went a little crazy on this one, if I remember right.
Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show. Better up. I kind of heard the words in there.
Up.
What was the circumstances around you getting this one?
I passed my phone around the table and had them record Measure Up into it.
So this maybe was like the third or fourth time, and he wanted to get a little avant-garde.
Yeah, I think it might be doing like a character or something, but I forgot.
I wonder what character it is. If anyone knows, maybe it's Boomhauer from King of the Hill.
I don't know. Big old Measure Up.
Yeah. All right, let's get right into it with length. They are 140 to 180 centimeters, or 55 to 71 inches in length. Let's call it 70 inches. How many pelicans go into the the height? Oh my gosh, could you imagine? How many pelicans go into the height of Mount Elbrus, the tallest mountain in Europe?
That sounds really tall. And Europe? Oh boy, they've got some tall mountains there.
Here's a hint. Mount Elbrus is a dormant volcano in Russia. It rises high above the surrounding landscape and is always covered in a snowcap. It's actually quite striking to look at because of the geography around the area.
Like Kilimanjaro or Fuji?
Not quite as elongated as those, but it's huge. Especially in the summer where everything around it is green, and then you see a huge white snowcap.
Well, Mount Fuji, I think, is always has snow at the top.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, I know that Mount Everest is, I think, 36,000 feet. And that's the only mountain height that I know. I'm going to say this is probably bigger. Obviously, it's not as big as that, but it's bigger than probably Mount McKinley. I'm going to say this thing is 28,000 feet. Gets us to 4,820. We'll call it 4,800. 4,800 pelicans lengths go into the height of this mountain. Mount Elbrus.
Okay.
Oh.
Not terrible. You are about 10,000 feet off. The mountain is 5,642 meters, or 18,510 feet. The correct answer is 3,173.1.
That is a striking picture. It's kind of twin peaked. I mean, not kind of, it is.
It is, yeah, right?
Yes, it rises twice. Rises once, goes down, and then rises up again like a camel's hump.
Yeah, interesting. Let's talk about male weight. Adult male weight. They are 9 to 15 kilograms, or 20 to 33 libs. Let's call it 30 pounds. How many pelicans go into the weight capacity? I always say compacity, but it's capacity.
Do you always say compacity?
Campacity, yeah. How many pelicans go into the weight capacity of a Pelican Bass Raider 10th edition, which is 10 inches and 10 feet and 2 inches?
Is that like a boat?
It is a boat. It's like a little pontoon.
Okay.
Unless it's Bass Raider and it's an amp.
That you throw into the ocean and catch a bass.
It's a huge amp. Here's a hint. The boat's own weight is about 165 pounds, or 75 kilograms. It's designed to access areas where larger fishing vessels would not be able to go.
Wait, did you just tell me what the weight of the boat is?
Yeah, but you're looking for capacity.
What? Oh, okay. It's a 10-foot boat, which means it's not very big. I imagine it can probably fit 8 people on it, 8 full-grown people sitting down. And they are, if they're, let's say, 150 pounds each. So it's like 1,200 pounds, exactly 1,200 pounds. And I'm going to add some cheddar on that because I think it can take 8 people and some gear. So I'm going to say 2,000 pounds. Yes. And before the buoyancy is overcome and everyone sinks to the bottom of the marsh.
Okay.
And so that means
30 pounds for the Pelican.
66.
66 Pelicans.
Yes.
Final answer. The correct answer is 20 Pelicans.
Oh my, it is.
The boat's weight capacity is 600 pounds or 272 kilograms.
Goodness.
Look at it. There's 2 like raised seats only. I'm sure you could sit other people in there, but it's designed for 2 fishermen and gear and whatever they catch.
But if you're an exceptionally heavy person, then you can't even get on this 10-foot boat.
It's a specific, like, it's a boat designed to be small. Look up a picture of it. While you're doing that, do you have any fast facts?
Oh, this is a really small boat.
Yeah, it's pretty small. It's 10 feet. It's not
This is like
tiny.
This is like something that like Navy SEALs zip across the water to go extract someone or something like that.
It looks kind of like that, but except for the raised seats are for fishing.
Yeah, and not raiding.
Unless you're raiding bass.
Did you not even want to talk about the wingspan?
Would you like to tell us about the wingspan?
Well, it's like 12 feet.
It's quite a bird.
It's got a 12-foot wingspan. That's enormous. I can't even, because imagine like that, because that's your average bedroom. The whole thing.
Yeah.
You have a pelican in there, and it spreads its wings, and it can touch both sides of your. That's a crazy bird.
Oh, so this wingspan is like quite large.
Yes, it is. I think it's like this. I remember us talking about a pelican when we were talking about the buzzard or whatever.
Yeah.
Condor.
California. Yeah.
California condor. And we were talking about the largest wingspan. The wandering albatross has a wingspan of 12 feet, but so does this pelican. So there's
interesting but wandering albatross is said to be the largest bird that flies.
Well, so and
they're only 16 pounds.
The great white pelican can get up to 11.81 feet. So I bet you the albatross averages at 12 feet.
Oh, gotcha.
Still, that's crazy. Anyway, also the bill is...
Well, they're all, but by all other accounts, bigger.
Yeah, they're
30
they're
pounds. A 30-pound bird.
Yeah, that'll kill you.
If that like flies into you, it could bludgeon you to death.
Yeah, but also it has a spear-like bill that's 18 and a half inches long.
Yeah.
So it could just kill you with that.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this. The Pelican was specifically requested by Chris from Play Comics.
Oh, was it?
Which is another podcast. Yeah.
Awesome.
I sent him like a tiny piece of the picture that Brian did, and just now I sent him like a bit of the notes, and he's like freaking out. This one's for you, Chris.
You're such a tease.
I think he'll be happy with like us talking about how crazy it is.
It is a crazy bird, and I would not ever want to pick a fight with it. But let's talk about what it eats, so we can get on to the major fact. So they love them some fish, which should be a surprise to absolutely no one who has ever seen a pelican before. But they also eat the eggs and chicks of other birds. There's actually an island or a bay in Namibia in Africa where the pelicans are almost completely dependent on the young of Cape cormorants. And there was a season when the population of Cape cormorants went down, and the pelican population went down as well because that was their food source. And there are also times when they'll eat full-grown seagulls and pigeons if there is no other food available. They'll capture a bird and drown it, and then eat them head first. There's actually a group of pelicans in a park in London that specifically eat pigeons.
Even when they have enough food.
Yeah, they're well fed, and they still kill and eat pigeons. So they're pretty brutal. And considering how big they are, pigeons don't stand a chance.
I saw a GIF of a pelican like scooping up a pigeon that got too close. And I think one of the comments was something like, "Is this allowed?" Are we going to just stand by and watch this happen?
Violating the rules, the bird rules. So Nigel is a strong swimmer and an even stronger flyer, unlike ducks. So it does a great job bobbing up and down on the surface of the water, but after an awkward takeoff with its giant wings, it can soar for a long time. In fact, it flies more than 60 miles every day looking for food from its nest. And it'll eat between 2 and 3 pounds of fish or whatever food it eats. Mostly fish. These guys mostly eat fish. We talked about some outlying examples, but for the grand majority, they eat fish. And so, yeah, they'll eat 2 to 3 pounds of that every day. And they'll make low grunting sounds during breeding season. And sometimes they'll even moo like a cow. Like they're just so confused as to what kind of animal they are.
Why are we so big? Why do I have a hunger for pigeon blood?
The pelican says moo. The pelican says, feed me pigeons. That's all I got.
Okay. Let's get into the major fact. But first, let's start with the story.
Ooh.
A few months ago, I was waiting for a boat to take me to China. That is, I was at Disney's Epcot and I was waiting to catch a ferry for a quick trip to the World Showcase. While I waited, I watched a small anhinga dive for fish. Anhingas are long-necked water birds, also called snake birds or water turkeys. After a short time, the anhinga popped up with a fish that was much bigger than its head. I was excited to see how on earth he would get this large lunch down his thin gullet. I'm not sure he had a plan either because he struggled to get it to the top of a dock post and then benignly smacked it against the wood. It was just then that a much larger cormorant swooped in to relieve the anhinga of his geometric conundrum. The two birds dove into the water with the fish, and after a beat, the cormorant emerged with the prize, and the disillusioned anhinga rested in the shade of the post and contemplated the cruel unfairness of bird life. This behavior is called kleptoparasitism, which is like waiting for another animal to do hard work and then strong winging it into giving you the rewards.
Like what lions do.
Yeah, they do that. Hyenas do that as well if they can. Anyone who's ever tried to eat a burger at the beach or found a bag of fries in a parking lot knows that birds are greedy little thieves.
Mm-hmm.
We fed the sea lions at SeaWorld, and they give you like a little basket of fish, and there was a little girl that they had given it to, and she was like holding a fish, and a seagull just swooped down and took it out of her hands.
You were there, you saw it?
And then like I saw it, yeah. And then you can also throw the fish to the sea lions, but seagulls will just catch them in midair.
So you have to skip it like a stone.
You have to just have to wing it at these sea lions. But the opposite of kleptoparasitism may be cooperative foraging. It's the practice of working together to find food or catch prey. It's popular among mammals who are the goats of complex social cooperation, maybe after ants and bees.
The goats?
Yeah, the greatest of all time.
Oh.
It's an internet thing. The kids are saying.
Oh, okay. I'll add that to my Rolodex here.
Yeah, you can still say goat. You got to cross out fleek though.
No, I'm still trying to work that into my vernacular.
It's not going to go over well.
It's right there with
yeet.
And
yeet's a dying breed, I think, but it's still fun. It's just a funny word, so.
But goat.
Anyway,
yeah. Totes my goats.
Wolves, lions, hyenas, and whales all work together to catch prey. They might not otherwise be able to catch on their own. So this behavior isn't common among birds, but there are exceptions, like the great white pelican. The pelicans and their American cousins, the American white pelicans, often engage in cooperative feeding or cooperative herding. They can feed alone, but most of the time they feed together through cooperation. Pelicans need to eat up to 3 pounds of fish every day, but based on the size of fish they go after, this could just be 3 fish because they like pounders.
Mm-hmm.
They feed by scooping up water and fish into their pouches, like you mentioned, and then contracting the pouches. I read that just the process of like lifting up their head and like, assuming the S-shape position that birds with long necks usually do, it just automatically squeezes the water out.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if there's like muscles in the pouch. I doubt it. But did you talk about like these leathery pouches are so flexible that it prevents them from like being ripped apart by sharp fish scales and stuff?
No, I didn't talk about that.
If you look at if you watch a pelican eat something that's really struggling, you can see like it looks like it's about to rip out of there, but the pouches are so like flexible that it doesn't happen. But when they feed, 6 to 8 pelicans swim in a horseshoe pattern to corral a school of fish into tight clusters. Then they dip their bills into the water at the exact same time to create this horseshoe net death trap for fish. And it's like the difference between net fishing and angling. You're just more likely to get higher yields with a larger surface area.
And they're doing this while swimming or flying?
While swimming.
Just quickly?
Americans, white pelicans, and great white pelicans rarely ever swoop or dive fish. They will swim around like ducks in the water and just corral fish.
It seems, I know fish aren't very smart, which is probably why this works, but it seems like you would just scare them deeper. But I guess it doesn't. That's why I think the scooping method seems so effective, because you're in the air and they have no idea where you are until your gullet is around them.
Well, they like swamp areas and stuff, and like shallow water.
I guess they can't escape.
But yeah, that's how they do it. They eat mostly fish, but like you said, they'll go after birds and things, which makes me feel a little bit better about the cormorant thing, that they go after cormorants. I was a little angry at the cormorant from the story, but I guess they get theirs.
I was at Murakami. I was in Murakami Gardens, and there was an Aninga there that caught a fish that I did not think would make it down its throat, and I watched it make it down its throat.
Yeah.
It happens. It's got this tiny neck that's about like the width of a marker, like a highlighter.
Yeah.
And then this fish that is the size of your cell phone goes down there, and it was remarkable. And a little bit disturbing because the fish was like still alive.
Yeah.
But who cares about fish? Even vegetarians eat fish.
No, they don't. Pescatarians eat fish.
So you got anything else?
Nope, that's all I got.
So that was the great white pelican. For you out there in Podcastia, get together with your pals, make a formation, and drain a food source like Golden Corral dry, like the great white pelican does in its own habitat here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
This is like when the boys get together and eat a lot of chicken and gnocchi soup at the Olive Garden.